Today we will look at our upcoming novel. When you look at this photo, what do you notice? What do you see? Well, I notice that it is a map of the United States, and Wyoming is the state that is in red. So I'm wondering if maybe the setting of our story might be in Wyoming. I'm noticing a dog that looks like he has a coat that allows him to be in cold weather. What do you notice? What do you see? I notice a maybe character that might be in the story, maybe a grandfather possibly. In this photo, what do you notice? What do you see? I see dogs pulling a sled, maybe Alaskan Husky dogs. In this photo, what do you notice? What do you see? I see potatoes, and I know that potatoes grow on a farm. So I'm wondering if maybe the setting is on a farm. What do you notice? What do you see? I noticed that in this photograph, there is a sled that looks like it has a long rope that might pull dogs from the previous photograph I've seen. Now we're going to take a look at our upcoming chapter. Chapter 1. We're going to look at chapter 1 questions to think about while reading. Question number 1. Where is the setting of Stone Fox? Question number 2. What characters were introduced in chapter 1? What did you learn about them? Question number 3. Describe Willie's grandfather. Use specific details from the text to support your answer. The story we'll be reading is called Stone Fox. Here is the front cover. It's by John Reynolds Gardner. The first chapter is called Grandfather. Chapter 1, Grandfather. One day, Grandfather wouldn't get out of bed. He just lay there and stared at the ceiling and looked sad. At first, little Willie thought he was playing. Little Willie lived with his grandfather on a small potato farm in Wyoming. It was hard work living on a potato farm, but it was also a lot of fun, especially when Grandfather felt like playing, like the time Grandfather dressed up as the scarecrow out in the garden. It took little Willie an hour to catch on. Boy, did they laugh. Grandfather laughed so hard he cried, and when he cried, his beard filled with tears. Grandfather always got up early, really early in the morning, real early in the morning, so early that it was still dark outside. He would make a fire, then he would make breakfast and call little Willie. Hurry up, or you'll be eating with the chickens, he would say. Then he would throw his head back and laugh. Once little Willie went back to sleep. When he woke up, he found his plate out in the chicken coop. It was picked clean. He never slept late again after that. That is, until this morning. For some reason, Grandfather had forgotten to call him. That's when little Willie discovered that grandfather was still in bed. There could be only one explanation. Grandfather was playing. It was another trick. Or was it? Get up, grandfather, little Willie said. I don't want to play anymore. But grandfather didn't answer. Little Willie ran out of the house. A dog was sleeping on the front porch. Come on, Searchlight, little Willie cried out. The dog jumped to its feet, and together they ran off down the road. Searchlight was a big black dog. She had a white spot on her forehead the size of a silver dollar. She was an old dog, actually born on the same day as little Willie, which was over 10 years ago. A mile down the road, they came to a small log cabin surrounded by tall trees. Doc Smith was sitting in a rocking chair under one of the trees, reading a book. Doc Smith, little Willie called out. He was out of breath. Come quick. What seems to be the matter, Willie? The doctor asked, continuing to read. Doc Smith had snow-white hair and wore a long black dress. Her skin was tan and her face was covered with wrinkles. Grandfather won't answer me, little Willie said. Probably just another trick, Doc Smith replied. Nothing to worry about. But he's still in bed. Doc Smith turned a page and continued to read. How late did you two stay up last night? We went to bed early, real early. No singing or music or anything. Doc Smith stopped reading. Your grandfather went to bed without playing his harmonica? She asked. Little Willie nodded. Doc Smith shut her book and stood up. Hitch up Rex for me, Willie, she said. I'll get my bag. Rex was Doc Smith's horse. He was a handsome Palomino. Little Willie hitched Rex to the wagon, and then they rode back to grandfather's farm. Searchlight ran on ahead, leading the way and barking. Searchlight enjoyed a good run. Going back to our questions. The first question was, where is the setting of Stone Fox? Well, if we go back to the beginning of the chapter, we find out that little Willie lived with his grandfather on a small potato farm in Wyoming. And if you recall, we had seen the map that was in red with Wyoming. What characters were introduced in chapter 1? Well, the first character was grandfather. So far, we know that grandfather usually gets up way before little Willie, so early that it's still dark outside to make them breakfast. However, this morning, little Willie got up and he thought that grandfather was maybe playing a trick. So grandfather must be a trickster, must like to play tricks. So little Willie's thinking grandfather's playing a trick. Searchlight is the dog. As we go back into the text, we see that it says Searchlight was a big black dog. She had a white spot on her forehead the size of a silver dollar. We also learned that little Willie and Searchlight have the same birthday, and that Searchlight and little Willie are over 10 years old. The other character we're introduced to is Doc Smith. Doc Smith is out reading a book and asks little Willie maybe that grandfather's playing a trick and asks what time they had gone to sleep. And then she realized that grandfather hadn't played his harmonica, so she was becoming concerned too. So she asked little Willie to hitch up Rex, which is her horse, to get the horse ready for the wagon to be put on the horse for them to travel to little Willie's house on the potato farm to see what was going on with grandfather. And finally, describe Willie's grandfather. Well, we had said that little Willie's grandfather likes to play tricks. Even Doc Smith said that grandfather's probably just playing another trick. We also learned that grandfather likes to play the harmonica. If we go back up further in the text, further down, went the wrong way, so sorry. Further down, it said that Doc Smith asked, your grandfather went to bed without playing his harmonica, so that must be something else that we know about grandfather. The other thing we know about grandfather is that he won't get out of bed, but we're not sure why grandfather won't get out of bed. Okay, go ahead into the virtual classroom to take your Google form for chapter 1.